Ava just scapegoated the wrong people. Ava stood in that NXT ring last night and blamed the Vanity Project for the brutal attack on Joe Hendry, and it's the most cowardly, most obvious cover-up I've seen from WWE management in years. She looked directly into the cameras, pointed her finger at Tavian Heights and Tariq Igwe, and accused them of an assault that everyone watching knows they didn't commit. This isn't just bad detective work. This is deliberate misdirection. This is WWE's authority figure lying to protect someone more valuable to the company while sacrificing two rising stars who don't have the political power to defend themselves. And if you're not absolutely furious about this blatant injustice, you're not paying attention to how corrupt NXT's power structure has become. Joe Hendry is in the hospital right now with injuries that could sideline him for months. The real attackers are walking free, probably laughing at how easy it was to get away with it. And the Vanity Project? They're about to get destroyed by a locker room that thinks they crossed a line they never actually crossed, all because Ava needed a convenient scapegoat to close this case fast. Smash that like button and subscribe to Wrestling News CC because I'm about to expose exactly why Ava's accusation is bullshit, who really attacked Joe Hendry, and why this false blame is going to tear the NXT locker room apart in the most dangerous way possible. Let me break down the timeline because the evidence that the Vanity Project didn't do this is absolutely overwhelming. Last Tuesday, Joe Hendry was attacked in the parking lot around 9:47 p.m. according to security footage. The assault lasted approximately 3 minutes. Multiple witnesses heard the commotion, but by the time anyone arrived, Joe was unconscious and the attackers were gone. Here's what we know from the footage that was shown: there were two attackers, both wearing black hoodies and masks. Both approximately 6 feet 2 inches to 6 feet 4 inches based on their height relative to the cars around them. Both moved with precision trained fighters who knew exactly what they were doing. Now let's talk about the Vanity Project. Tavian Heights is 6 feet 1 inch. Tariq Igwe is 5 feet 11 inches. Neither of them matches the height of the attackers on the footage. That's basic detective work that apparently Ava either ignored or deliberately overlooked. But it gets worse. Multiple wrestlers have come forward off the record because they're terrified of management retaliation, saying they saw Tavian and Tariq in the Performance Center gym during the exact time the attack happened. They have alibis. They have witnesses. They were literally in a different building when this assault occurred, and Ava blamed them anyway. So last night on NXT, Ava calls out the Vanity Project to the ring. The crowd is already booing because rumors have been circulating all week that they're the suspects. Tavian and Tariq walk out looking confused because they genuinely don't know why they're being summoned. They think maybe they're getting a championship opportunity or a big match announcement. Instead, Ava drops the hammer. After reviewing all available evidence and consulting with WWE security, I'm here to inform you that the Vanity Project is suspended indefinitely pending a full investigation into the attack on Joe Hendry. You two are the primary suspects, and until we can prove otherwise, you're banned from NXT programming. Tavian tries to speak, tries to defend himself, and Ava cuts him off. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear denials. The evidence speaks for itself. Security will escort you from the building immediately. The injustice, the complete denial of due process, the refusal to even hear their side of the story. This is authoritarian management at its worst, and WWE is presenting it like Ava is some kind of hero taking decisive action when she's actually a coward protecting the real attackers. The Vanity Project is furious, rightfully so. Tariq is yelling that they have alibis, that this is bullshit, that Ava isn't even looking at the actual evidence. Security drags them out while the crowd cheers because they've been conditioned to believe management is always right and accused wrestlers are always guilty. This is dangerous storytelling, because it teaches audiences that authority figures should be trusted blindly even when the evidence contradicts their claims. That accusations equal guilt. That defending yourself makes you look more guilty rather than less. Here's what's really happening, and why Ava is covering this up. The actual attackers? They're protected talent. They're people WWE has invested significant money and creative energy into. They're wrestlers who management can't afford to suspend right now because of ongoing storylines or upcoming events. So instead of doing the right thing, investigating thoroughly, finding the real culprits, and holding them accountable, Ava took the easy path. She blamed two wrestlers who are talented but not yet essential to major storylines. Two guys who don't have the backstage pull to fight back effectively. Two convenient scapegoats who can be sacrificed to make this problem go away quickly. That's not justice. That's politics. And it's going to destroy the Vanity Project's momentum and credibility even when they're eventually proven innocent. Let's talk about the evidence that Ava is deliberately ignoring because it's damning to her narrative. First, the height discrepancy I already mentioned. The footage clearly shows attackers taller than the Vanity Project members. That alone should be enough to eliminate them as suspects. Second, the style of the attack. The assault on Joe Hendry was methodical, professional. The attackers knew exactly which body parts to target to cause maximum damage while avoiding areas that could cause permanent injury. That's not the work of opportunistic wrestlers, that's trained professionals or wrestlers with significant experience. The Vanity Project are young. They're still developing their skills. The idea that they could execute an attack with that level of precision is laughable to anyone who's actually watched them work. Third, the motive. What reason would the Vanity Project have to attack Joe Hendry? They're not feuding with him. They've never had negative interactions. There's no storyline reason for them to target him. But Ava didn't bother establishing motive because she doesn't need to, she just needed someone to blame. Meanwhile, there are at least 3 other wrestlers or groups on the NXT roster who have had issues with Joe Hendry recently, who've cut promos about him, who've been positioned as his rivals. Any of them would be more logical suspects than the Vanity Project. But those wrestlers are more valuable to NXT's current programming, so they get protected while Tavian and Tariq get sacrificed. The locker room reaction to this suspension is explosive. Multiple wrestlers are furious that Ava would make such a serious accusation without proper investigation. There's talk of a locker room meeting to discuss collective action, possibly refusing to perform until the Vanity Project gets a fair hearing. That's how serious this is. Wrestlers who normally stay out of backstage politics are getting involved because they recognize that if management can do this to the Vanity Project, they can do it to anyone. Today it's a false accusation about an attack. Tomorrow it could be false accusations about policy violations, conduct issues, or anything else management wants to use to remove someone they find inconvenient. Joe Hendry himself has remained silent on social media, which is telling. If he genuinely believed the Vanity Project attacked him, wouldn't he be speaking out? Wouldn't he be demanding justice? His silence suggests he either doesn't know who attacked him or he knows it wasn't them and is uncomfortable with Ava's false accusation. Here's my prediction for how this plays out. The Vanity Project spends 2 to 3 weeks suspended while still appearing in backstage segments trying to clear their names. They investigate on their own, gathering evidence. Eventually, they expose the real attackers, probably at a major NXT event, and Ava is forced to admit she was wrong. But here's the problem: even when they're vindicated, the damage is done. Weeks of being labeled as attackers. Weeks of fans booing them. Weeks of lost momentum and opportunities. And Ava? She'll probably face 0 consequences for her false accusation because WWE authority figures never do. That's not satisfying storytelling. That's frustrating storytelling that makes fans lose faith in the system. What should happen, what would actually be good television, is this: the Vanity Project gets cleared quickly. Ava is forced to apologize publicly and faces consequences for her rush to judgment, maybe a vote of no confidence from the roster. The real attackers are exposed and punished severely. And we move forward with everyone's credibility intact. But WWE doesn't do accountability for authority figures. They do "oops, we made a mistake," moving on without any real consequences, which teaches audiences that people in power can make terrible decisions without facing repercussions. Here's what makes me angriest about this whole situation: the Vanity Project are talented. They've been working their asses off to build their team, develop chemistry, and get over with the NXT audience. They were finally starting to gain momentum, getting positive crowd reactions, and positioning themselves for potential championship opportunities. And Ava just destroyed all of that progress with one false accusation. Even when they're proven innocent, there will be fans who still believe they did it. There will be lingering doubt. Their reputation is permanently damaged by this storyline. That's the cost of using wrestlers as scapegoats for drama. You sacrifice their long-term credibility for short-term storyline heat, and it's never worth it. Drop your thoughts. Do you believe the Vanity Project attacked Joe Hendry, or is this an obvious cover-up? Who do you think really did it? And should Ava face consequences when the truth comes out? Let me know in the comments, because this is the most corrupt authority figure storyline we've seen in years. This is Wrestling News CC, where we call out injustice even when it's fictional, because the messages these storylines send matter. Subscribe for continued coverage of this developing story and analysis that doesn't just accept authority narratives. Ava blamed the wrong people. The Vanity Project is being sacrificed. And somewhere, the real attackers are laughing at how easy it was to get away with assault by letting someone else take the fall. Justice delayed is justice denied. And in NXT right now, justice isn't even being pursued, just performed for cameras while the truth gets buried for convenience.